Hello, Vikash, and welcome. I heard that you just visited Tibet a while ago. Was that your first time there, and how do you feel about your stay in Tibet?
Hello, namaste. I have been living in China from last 15 years, and this was my first time to visit Lhasa and Linzhi, two cities of Tibet. So my impression was before going to Tibet, maybe Tibet is in a very backward condition, but the impression I got after visiting Tibet, it's wonderful. In our group there were more than 50 people, scholars, journalists, diplomats. Everybody's impression was really surprising, you can say. I saw many people, they came from different parts of Tibet or even different parts of China. So tourism has boosted the economy, local economy in Linzhi and Lhasa also. It's really very developed. If you talk about transportation, if you talk about education, if you talk about people's life, if you talk about digital life, everybody they use WeChat, Douyin, and these kind of apps. They order food on their apps. So it was quite surprising. It's totally different from what we see in media. So it was surprising. My impression is really very good, and if I have chance in future, I would really love to visit again.
Actually, especially Tibet, many foreigners have stereotypes of China. So could you please give us 3 keywords to summarize the general impression that Indians have of China?
One is Kung Fu. Every Indian, they think Chinese people, they can do Kung Fu. The another one is Chinese people, they can eat everything.
Eat everything.
Yes, everything. And the third impression is China is still not very developed. People, they don't have freedom.
So since you have been working in China for more than 15 years, so based on your real experience, so how do you respond to this prejudice against China? And what does China really look like in your eyes?
So when I came here in 2007, I was surprised. It's a developed country, a developed city, you can say, Beijing. My impression was changed. And if we talk about every Chinese people can have Kung Fu, no, it's not. It's not this impression we got from movies. The another one is Chinese people can eat everything. But I don't think this is the real thing in China. If you go to different places of China, we say pa da cai, so 8 different varieties of food. In India, most of the people, they are vegetarian. So whenever through the media, on television or in print media, in newspaper, they see a picture of a vegetable shop or vegetable market. They see everything. Oh, here is the pork, beef, chicken, everything is there. So they think Chinese people, they can eat everything. But in my impression, Chinese people are also, they love to eat vegetables. So there are some vegetables that you can't grow in India. And the third one, I tell you, China is, there is no freedom of speech or no free press, I think. It depends. I don't feel any kind of I don't have freedom to speak. But if you ask me, I want freedom of education. And I think every Chinese people, they have this kind of freedom. Here, they say 9 years of education, free education. So every Chinese people, and the government insists them to go to the school. When they graduate from the university, they have freedom to choose a job. I want freedom to have a very good or healthy life. So I have this kind of freedom to choose. They are enjoying their life. They are enjoying their freedom. So it depends in what perspective and how you see freedom.
Where do the cognitive distortions come from? Why do Indians have such an impression of China?
I think most of the news comes from media. How media portrays China's image in India, that's very important. So when we see news about China, most of the time it's very negative. But these days, I think recently, many Indian people, they are doing business with China and they are frequently visiting China. And when they go back to India, they share their experience with their relatives, their friends. So this way, in this way, they are changing their perception about China.
Cultural exchanges and people-to-people connections are appreciated ways to connect us, to make us come together.
Yes,
And
yes.
actually, China and India have too many things in common.
Yes.
Yeah, and we share the same interests in many fields. Like we are both agricultural countries, and we are both hardworking explorers of self-development. So, in what areas do you think China and India can cooperate with each other, and what experts can India learn from China?
And if you see the development of China, then I think India has to learn a lot from China, because in 1947 India got independence, and in 1949 the new PRC was established. So if you compare from that period the development of India and China, then you will find like the gap is growing. Now China has already become the world's second largest economy. Behind this, I think the hard labor of Chinese people, the right policy of Chinese government, I think these two things are very important. So I think Indian government and even Indian people also, they should learn. They talk a lot, work very less. But in China, like my experience is, I have seen Chinese people, when they work, like they just work. They don't talk, or even they don't talk about their achievements. Like they keep their profile very low. Like universities, like you can say the software infrastructure and hardware infrastructure, both has improved. India is now one of the largest populated country in the world. So they have to feed their people. If you go to Chinese villages and if you go to inner China, then you will find like they are using the advanced technology in the field of agriculture. So I think in India also, like we should learn in this sector also. China also has something to learn from India. Our medicine is very cheap. There are some space to cooperate in this field, pharmaceutical industry. Apart from this, the pace in which China is growing, like it has created a lot of burden. I think they can learn from India, like how they can become spiritually happier.
And the cooperation between two countries depends on the relations.
See, right now the India-China relation is not very smooth, you can say. But I believe, look, I trust on both the governments. They will definitely find a solution to solve our problems. But I think apart from this problem, we should increase people-to-people contact. You see, before, a lot of Chinese scholars, they have translated a lot of Indian classics or Indian literature into Chinese. Indian people, there is a huge market also, you can say, and there is a huge demand also to know China. So I think Chinese government, they should take the initiative, and they encourage people, or they encourage scholars to translate different Chinese classics into Indian languages.